Welcome to Type Tune Tint Video. I'm Tom Kranz. Today's guest has been making hard-driving rock music since high school and has recently polished up two new albums driven by his virtuoso guitar craft. This is Chris Wall and Recwall.
The cracks in our way, been here before. We'll break it down quite likely, right to the floor. Maybe not today, but there'll be more. No, we don't take it lightly, not anymore. Even if we fall to pieces, baby, I will be right here. Even if it all comes crashing down, I will be right here. Another day, 3 out of 4, holding it all so tightly, we know the score. Finding our way, making it more. No, we don't wait politely, not anymore. Even if we fall to pieces, baby, I will be right here. Even if it all comes crashing down, I will be right here. Even if we fall to pieces, baby, I will be right here. Even if it all comes crashing down, I will be right here. Even if we fall to pieces, baby, I will be right here. Even if it all comes crashing down, I will be right here.
And I'm joined today by Chris Wall from his palatial estate in Somerville, New Jersey. And I'm at my home in Fanwood. Chris, hello. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you're awake.
Yes, I am awake. Good to be here. Good to see you, Tom.
Yes, I try to do these in the morning when we're supposedly fresh, right? Uh, so Chris and we have a little bit of work history. I used to work at CBS and left there in 2007. And Chris and I worked in the same department, and we crossed paths there. Chris was a technician editor at the time, I guess. As I said, I'm not really sure what you did at the time. But that was when I first met him, and I was first exposed to the music that he, or at least part of the music he was doing. That was the early to mid 2000s. And I had just gotten wind of the fact that Chris was a guitarist and a musician, that he had recorded a couple of CDs. So I got a hold of the one that he did with the band Zenbender. And we're going to talk about that for a little while. But that was one of several bands that Chris has been a part of over the years. And actually made at least several appearances at CBGB, as I learned combing through your TikTok site. That impressed me. But Chris, so I left CBS, Chris left, and then he came back, and now you're there again. Let's start with your day job. So what do you do for those guys?
Well, I'm pretty much doing what I did even back in the day. The role there it's called editor/technician. And in my case, it's pretty much just editing. I'm also a director in the DGA, and I did some directing work for them around 2015, 2016. But I haven't really been doing that kind of work. So it's pretty much just been editing of late.
So what I learned when I worked at NewsPath, and that was CBS NewsPath was the name of that department, was the affiliate services department, basically. I learned that if you work in a New York newsroom, you are working in a melting pot of the globe. You work with people from all over the world, all kinds of people. It's the most diverse workplace I've ever worked in. And as such, there are quite a few people who have either hidden or unhidden talents. We had musicians there like Chris, of course. There was another guitarist there, and a singer, and people who do various things but have to also work for a living. I totally get that. So you started, as I saw in your bio, you started really as a kid listening to rock and roll and then playing on your brother's guitar that he kind of gave to you. What did you just always have a love for rock and roll in general, or music, or how did that start?
Well, I mean, there was music in my house from day one, as far back as I can remember, of every genre. But I remember when my father first started playing the Beatles and the Who, and that was just like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, even as a little kid, I was just like, wow.
So your father listened to rock and roll music?
Yeah, I mean, he listened to everything. I mean, he loved Rachmaninoff and Mozart and a lot of piano, classical, opera. I was exposed to all of it, but what turned me on was when he was playing the rock music. And he was a college professor. He actually had students feeding him stuff, so it was pretty cool.
And so what I saw was that you started playing a guitar on what you called a Fender knockoff, some off-brand guitar. Did you ever take lessons, or are you self-taught, or was it a combination of the two?
My brother-in-law was the guy who gave me that guitar, and I was clueless when he gave it to me. I just plugged it in and just loved like making distorted sounds. And I had no theory, no idea what I was doing. So I did take some lessons, and that got so boring so fast that I just said to the guy, listen, I just want to jam, can we cut to the chase? Because he was trying to teach me music theory, and I am dyslexic, and I do have a math issue too. So I was just like, just show me where to put my hands, and he did. He taught me a bunch of open chords, taught me about bar chords, and he taught me the pentatonic scale. And he said, if you go take this scale and play it against any blues progression, it'll all click. And he was absolutely right. That's all I needed to start writing music, not just playing it.
So you don't read music per se, or do you at this point?
I do not.
So you sit down and you just play, and that's what you do. That's how you write.
Yeah, and I don't even know the names of the chords that I'm playing. I mean, I know general shapes based on open chords, but 9 times out of 10, it's just like, does this sound fit or does it not fit? And I don't really know what it is. I just do it.
Well, that's pretty amazing. So you did, you were in one or more high school bands. I was in a high school band too. Our name was Organized Confusion, by the way. And oh my, it was. Inagata DeVita was my big solo number, right? And you got to be really old to remember that tune. So that I guess is kind of the beginning of really kind of cultivating a love for being in a band.
I had so much diverse experience in bands when I was in college. I mean, I started out in a cover band trying to learn to sing, really, because I really did that did not come easy to me. And so I spent a lot of time in a cover band when I first got to the college, into Erie, Pennsylvania is where I went to college. And then from there, I started an originals band that was sort of like grungy rock meets like Deadhead kind of rock. And we became, kind of popular in the little town in
Now,
Erie.
what years are we talking here?
This is 89 to 91.
And now, is that the grunge Seattle period, or are we not there yet?
Just the beginnings of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, what got me coming back to New York after all of that was my friends from high school coming up and recording our first serious demo. And that happened right after I heard we all just fell in love with the Chili Peppers album, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and that changed everything. And we wanted to do something sort of heavy and groovy like that. They came up to Erie. I had a great space to record in, and we made some demos, and they took them back to New York and started getting people interested pretty quickly. They were like, Chris, you got to move back to New York. We can really do this.
So was this then Zen Bender we're talking about, or has that not happened yet?
We decided to take the name that we had originally chosen as the same guys from high school. So we were called the Vitals.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
we were playing all over town as the Vitals and shopping demos around. And we very quickly got a management contract with a company called Wild Justice. And they were really looking for the next big thing. And they wanted to shape our sound and our image and everything to sort of mimic what was happening in Seattle at the time. So they changed our sound, had us change our name, changed the types of guitars we were playing, the amps we were playing through, to not just to change the sound, but to change the look and the vibe of the whole thing. So,
And you were not happy with this, or what?
I was elated because people were giving us attention. In retrospect, I think that we had missed the boat. What they were trying to shape us into had kind of sailed already.
You mean the whole grunge sound was already kind of, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest criticism when we finally got into the ears of the major labels is that great songs, but it's a little late and it's a little derivative of what's happening. Yeah, I mean, it was also, there was more to it than that. I mean, we were not ready for that life. And I think that was probably pretty clear to the folks that were listening to us and just sort of judging us in general as.
Oh, not ready, you mean in terms of your sound and your talent, or maturity wise, or?
Probably all of the above. I think
Okay.
that we made a really great sounding record, and we could sometimes achieve that on stage, and sometimes we were just outright awful.
And was, yeah, that hurts to make that admission. Was that album Goodbye Cruel People?
Yes. We never called it that, but there is a note on the wall that says, I've called it that since, but because I released that on my own when we got dropped from.
Oh, is that right? Okay. So the version of that CD I have is you essentially released that as an independent artist.
That actually was released by Wild Justice. At the time, they were so dismayed we got very, very close with RCA, and Peter Robinson was saying he was going to write a check and that he was just going to put us on the road and get us the seasoning that we needed. But he snuck into a show where we were really awful.
Oh,
and
wow.
we did a sort of a warm-up show before our big CBGB's showcase where all the major labels were. And he was the one saying, listen, don't even think about it. These guys are mine. And then he came and saw us at a tiny little place in Queens. And we were all in rare form, I'll just say.
Wow.
And our guitar player was nearly an hour late. It was just a really bad night. And
perfect storm
what he
of
saw
shittiness,
was
basically.
a lot of disorganization, a lot of immaturity, and guys that just weren't ready to work.
I got it. But so then did CBGB come after that?
We had been showcasing CBGBs regularly at that point.
Really?
We had a lot of money behind us and a lot of push. And, every major label was there that following Saturday night after our bad show. And we already knew that Peter Robinson wasn't going to sign us. So we were heartbroken already, and it showed on stage. We didn't rise to the occasion in the showcase either.
I got you.
It was,
For those people who don't know what CBGB is, it's an iconic, legendary club in New York City, founded by a guy named Hilly Crystal. If you really want to know more, there's a documentary that I just watched again called CBGB, starring Alan Rickman as Hilly Crystal. And that club is essentially, and he are kind of the godfather among the founders of punk music, right? When all those punk artists were coming up, the Ramones, there was one of their big, the Dead Boys and Television. That was the first club that they played, and then he was kind of given. So that club has been like, it doesn't exist anymore. In fact, my friend Devin, who I mentioned to you before, she recently played at the CBGB bar at Newark Airport. Did you know there's a bar there? Yes. And they bought the name CBGB, and it's like, it's an airport bar, and they
franchise now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a cruel hoax, actually.
That was my dream, to play there. That's all I needed.
And you did. So you achieved that part of your dream.
Yeah.
But then things,
there's no better sound. There was no better sound in Manhattan at the time.
So just real quick, since I brought up Zen Bender, and that was my first introduction to you, here's the album cover. It's kind of dark.
It was painted by a friend of mine named Chuck Daly, who's no longer with us.
The music on that album, and I'm going to play a little bit of my favorite tune, which is called Real. That song has everything for me. I can't understand why anybody would have passed on it. It's got it all. Here's a little bit of Real, folks. Did you call this when you guys were kind of at your heyday?
Absolutely, yeah. That song in particular was the one that when they heard the demo version of it, we're like, all right, we need to get these guys in the studio fast. That was Wild Justice who started. They just paid for it, put us in the studio immediately to get those songs recorded.
Well, it's great, and I know it's ancient history. So we're talking this. You recorded this in the 90s, I guess.
1993.
All right, so that would be 30 years ago. Like, all I can say is, holy shit, man.
Yeah, holy shit.
Without further ado, I want to introduce the song "Uninvited," which is one of your latest, and I guess it's kind of your big single right now. This is a cover version of the Alanis Morissette tune "Uninvited," which is a great tune in its own right. But as you'll hear in a minute, this one really takes off. Why did you choose this particular song to cover?
I wish I could take credit for that. I have a close friend I have developed, a close friendship with on TikTok. She is someone who is sort of like a curator and someone who assists musicians on TikTok. She discovers talent, and she went to an Alanis Morissette show recently and saw that song, and she thought of me, and she called me or texted me the next day, and she's just like, you have to do that song, but you need to do it like Recwall. Don't try to reproduce what she did. Do your version of it. And I've always loved that song. I don't know if it is, but I've always heard it as sort of like a feminist anthem, and I was just like, do I go there, And the more I listened to it, the more I started hearing my version of it, particularly with her input on that, like make it darker, make it grungy, make it yours. And it flew out. It was something, I did it, I think, in a week. I had so much fun. interpreting that song. And there's so many cool things going on in the original that I wanted to preserve. But at the same time, I wanted to launch it in a way that it sort of doesn't in the original version. It has its own sort of launching vehicle, which the strings and the whole, but I wanted to make it grunge launch. So
well, you succeeded. And I just want to double check this. This version, you're playing every instrument except the drums. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And who's playing the drums? Is that a person or is that also programmed?
It's programmed, and it's the most painstaking part of what I do.
But you do that also, right?
Yeah, I program them to try to sound human, because they're not. And that means like adjusting sensitivity on each drum hit. It means using point and click features to try to adjust each drum's timing and pressure. And I mean, the software with these systems now is so elaborate that you can mimic what's called an impulse response. It's a software term for mimicking how a microphone behaves in a certain space. You can actually tune these drums. You can choose the positioning of the microphones. And so it's a very elaborate, what's called a virtual instrument. And there's a lot of things to tweak. And what I have found over the years is that if the drums sound crappy, it's going to sound like a demo and not an album.
So do you add the drums at the very end, or do you do it as part of the process?
I start with the drums.
Oh, really? Okay.
I start with the drums to give me the groove. So I'll just do the basics so that I can then, I'll usually do bass next, because to me, that's the heart and soul of the song. The guitars are icing on the cake, the way I look at it a lot of the time. Not always, but so yeah, I mean, the drums are everything.
So the rhythm section rules is what you're telling me here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I sing from the bass. That's what gives me my pitch.
All right. So without further ado, here is Uninvited.
Fascination
Chris Wall in just a moment. And I'm back with Chris Wall, who is Recwall. He's, the 21st century version of a one-man band, really. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The song you just heard, Uninvited, is all Chris. He played all the instruments. He created the drum track on a computer, and he did the singing. And it's really kind of remarkable that you can do all that stuff. When you record, do you record right there in your house?
Right in this room right here.
So no studios, no third parties. You control everything basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that gets a little rough is vocals. My neighbors, I think, probably want to kill me.
I doubt it. Who would want to kill you? Who would want to kill you? I mean, please.
But I have taken a little interface that I have to my car when I'm gonna, really balls out sing. And
you sit, so you go into your car and sing in your car?
Yeah, but not of late, because for a while this room was occupied by my girlfriend's son before he got his own place. Now I have like an enclosed space that I have some kind of soundproofing in, so my neighbors are just sort of grinning and bearing it right now. But before that, I was singing in the car.
Right. Do you make your music for an audience or yourself?
Both. It was for myself because I really didn't have much exposure. Sort of being careful. I mean, I don't mind saying I'm in recovery, so I don't make it part of my business to hang out in bars and clubs.
If you're not consumed by the bad stuff and you actually have time to look at yourself in the mirror, it's like a good thing. It's better to write music and to write books and to sing than it is to go out and beat the shit out of people, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's been an amazing outlet. I mean, I get to make really angry music for the times when I'm really angry, and really sad music. It's my therapy.
So it sounds to me like you're constantly writing, you're constantly playing, and that's evidenced by your TikTok page. So what is your TikTok handle?
It's just at Recwall. So it's tiktok.com/@Recwall.
Oh, we're going to end with, ironically, a song called Never Ending from your album Still Here. I thought this was another great example of your versatility as a singer, as a musician. And once again, this is Chris playing all the instruments, programming the drums, doing his own singing. Chris Wall, I really appreciate the fact that you got up and decided to join me here for Type Tune Tint. This was one of the best I've done so far. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best.
Oh, same to you, Tom. It was a pleasure.
Oh yes, I pull the wool over my eyes. Delusions of the mind. They're sitting on a shelf so full of everlasting lies. Illusions undefined. Hey, can't you see that it's never ending? You're in a daydream. Hey, can't you see that we're all pretending? You'll never know me. I rule myself, yes, I threw